let's start off with this. This is a good little warm up here. So tell me, we all been kind of locked down, readjusting for the last year and a half. Um, so we actually had some forced time, well, forced family time over the last several months. So tell me, what have you learned about yourself and your family during this pandemic?
Um,
Jump in there.
I learned that you can't get time back.
Okay.
Can't get time back. The time that you spend with your family, the what you instill into them is extremely important. Uh, Before the pandemic, I worked a lot. Uh, I'm a barber. I worked a lot, and being the sole provider in my house, paying bills at the shop, paying bills at home. Uh, I felt that I had to go ahead and provide.
Mhm.
Being forced to be at home and see what I was missing, uh, what I some of the things that I wasn't teaching my kids, and even in my home, uh, I had a different perspective in life, to where I was working 9, 10 o'clock, probably sometimes longer than that. Even though I was working only like 4 days, it was still a lot of time that I spent away from my home and away from my kids and away from my wife. So like I cut my schedule. I leave at 5 o'clock every day now,
Mm.
knowing that I determine my life and not trying to please clients. I think realizing that now as a man and sitting in my crap, watching my father chase money and him being away from the home, from our home, it played a big role, I think, on us. And me sitting back and actually realizing I was kind of in that same phase.
Mhm.
Like I said, I stepped all the way back and I readjusted my life to where I'm doing something probably with my kids every day. I mean, not saying that I didn't do it, but I'm more tuned in to them.
More involved, right? I think that's kind of powerful. I think the pandemic forced a lot of us to kind of take a different look at what we're doing and how we're doing it. And that's interesting. You're talking about being the sole provider. I kind of want to come back to that. I'm going to let the other gentleman chime in on the question.
Well, for me, uh, I want to just kind of piggyback on what Aaron said. You can get time back, and it really, really flies. You know, these last from 2019 till now, I just watched how much my kids have grown just by being in the house every day. You see the growth in them, and then you see um, what you instilled in them kind of take place. Because when they are in school, you can see that um, the virtual school and the things that you taught them in life really even take place while they are in virtual school. The respect factor, treating people like you want to be treated, do the things that you're supposed to do. Just watching my kids grow is really something special. And, you know, one day I woke up and I'm like, wow, my oldest son will be graduating in 2 years. And I really thank God for this. The pandemic allowed me to spend more time with him in the home. You know, those 7, 8 hours a day they're in school, I wouldn't have been able to spend that time with them. So the pandemic, like Aaron said, forced us to spend time with our families that you would have, but you wouldn't have at the same time. Because for me, being a minister, we were always on the go, on the go. We were at the church at least 2 or 3 times a week, maybe more. And being in the pandemic, it shut us down to where I had the actual time to spend with my kids and my wife. And, for some people, pandemic wasn't a blessing, but for me, in certain areas, it allowed me to spend that quality time with my family that it was really missing because I wasn't chasing money, but I felt I had to do things uh, in ministry, and it was taken away from my family. Even though we were together most of the time, it wasn't still that family quality time that we needed.
Right. Good point. Very good point. Okay. Brother Ken, go ahead.
Joe College.
Yeah. So the pandemic. So I'll just kind of give you a quick background. So we've homeschooled our kids for almost their entire tenure for school. Additionally, I work virtually, and my wife, she takes on the role of kind of teaching our children. So when the pandemic hit, it wasn't like a huge adjustment for like our own personal life because we were kind of into this whole mode of homeschooling, working from home. We spent a lot of time together, just kind of already. But I think that we're kind of so a couple of things. The first thing is that like it really helped me to kind of understand that we're really fortunate to be able to like have this structure set up for our children. We can spend time with them, like we can teach them. We can take that kind of intentional, purposeful role into making sure they have the right stuff, right? And everybody doesn't have that for a number of different reasons. Some people they just don't want to do it. Some people they don't choose to do it or whatnot. But like just really begin to reflect on like we're very fortunate to be able to do this for our family and just really just kind of just put a refresher in our mind that like this is we're pretty fortunate and just kind of value that even more. I think the second thing was more so around like just the safety of our children, right? With the pandemic going on, there were a number of times we had to like really disappoint a lot of people, like family members, all kind of stuff, just like being straight up and say, listen, you can't come around, like we're not going to come around, like we're just making sure that we're putting our family and our safety, the safety of our family first, even though we had to like disappoint people and things like that. It wasn't easy, right? But just taking a stance on like nothing comes before the safety of our family. So it really kind of helped put that piece into perspective as well.
Okay. Yeah, you're in a unique situation where both parents are able to work from home, and that's we don't see that too often. But as everyone was talking about in this pandemic, we actually were able to see what we've been missing. The term, provider is assigned to fathers. And I think that's been our traditional role as providers. So we're going out, trying to make sure the bills are paid, trying to make sure there's food on the table. But I think at the same time, we may have taken on the role of provider, but I think only really looking at the financial sense of what it means to be a provider, and not necessarily focusing on the relationship part of what it means to be a provider.